Studio Classroom is on the air. It's a place to learn and a place to share. Connect with others everywhere. There are things to learn and there's things to know. So please stay tuned and watch the show.
Welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. My name is Rebecca, and this is the place where exciting things happen. Oh no, watch out! Here comes some water. If we don't hurry, we'll never be able to cross the stream. Okay. Now, this isn't real. There is no water really coming into the studio. However, this is kind of what happened with Gabe, Brandon, and Josh while they're on their adventure in Taidong. Yesterday, we learned that these three hikers experienced a flash flood while in search of a waterfall. Well, we are going to continue this lesson called Flash Flood, and we are going to answer the following questions. Are you ready for the questions? Well, here they are. What piece of advice did Josh's dad give? That's a good question. And did the hikers follow this advice? Friends, I want you to pay very close attention as we try to answer these questions. And open your magazines so we can begin Flash Flood. Let's go.
Flash flood. In the few minutes since we had last crossed the stream, the water had risen and become increasingly menacing. We had crossed over it on visible rocks. Now there were no rocks to be seen, only what looked like lumps covered with rushing water. We had no choice but to maneuver our way back in flip-flops, no less. Each step had to be taken carefully in the swift current. We had crossed this stream not once or twice, but 6 times in search of a waterfall that we never even reached.
Hi everyone, welcome to Language Lab. 今天的第一个重点，我们看 menacing 这个形容词，它原本是 menace，M-E-N-A-C-E， 威吓，或者是使惊吓这个动词的现在分词。当形容词是指险恶的，或者是造成威胁的。例如 the robbers' menacing actions frightened everyone present。这名抢匪令人害怕的举动让在场的每一个人都很害怕。或者是 the bully's menacing manners really scared the kids at school。这个恶霸威胁性的举止真的吓到了学校里的孩子们。继续我们看的是 lump 这个名词 ，lump 是指块或者是团。例如 drain the sauce carefully so there won't be any lumps。小心过滤酱汁，免得里面有结块。或者是 the artist carved the lump of wood into a beautiful sculpture。这位艺术家把这块木头雕成了一个美丽的雕塑。Lump 也指肿块，例如 Patrick felt a lump in his neck and went to the doctor for checkup。Patrick 摸到脖子上有一个肿块，就去医生那里检查了。
Gabe, this sounds very difficult. What a crazy story.
Well, yeah, actually, what I didn't have time to mention in the lesson is that I had a plastic bag in my mouth. I was holding it, and I had a GoPro and my cell phone inside, which was useless by that time because there was no reception in the mountains. Even if I wanted to get in touch with people, I couldn't. And I had this in a little plastic bag. When we were going through the currents, I couldn't hold it in my hand. I had to put it in my mouth. So there were a lot of things I had to focus on while trying to cross this crazy rushing river.
Well, this sounds really crazy. You said in the few minutes since we had last crossed the stream, the water had risen and become increasingly menacing. That sounds so scary.
Yes, it was. So we didn't expect this. in just 5 minutes since we last crossed the stream. Okay, we turn around, it looks like a completely different stream. It doesn't look like a stream anymore. It looked like a crazy rushing river, a menacing river.
Well, when you first crossed over the stream, you crossed on visible rocks.
Yes, yes.
And then in the lesson you said, now there were no rocks to be seen, only what looked like lumps covered with rushing water.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, let's take a look at that phrase, no something to be seen. This is just another way of saying we couldn't see something. Okay, so there were no rocks to be seen.
Exactly. And another way you can use this phrase is, I went to the lake to feed the ducks. However, when I got to the lake, there were no ducks to be seen. It must have been too cold out for the ducks.
Very nice. Or we were going to go on a hike. The weather forecast said it would be very cloudy. However, when we went out that day, we looked in the sky and there were no clouds to be seen. It was a very clear sky. Okay, think of other ways you could use this phrase.
Unfortunately, on this day, I'm sure that there were probably plenty of clouds to be seen.
That's interesting you mentioned that, Rebecca, because when we were driving up to the base of the hike, it wasn't raining. It was only when we got into the mountains that a heavy mist came in, which of course, that means a lot of clouds are already up in the sky. Okay, so we got back through the river. We had no choice but to maneuver our way back. Maneuvering, that means we're trying to find our way through something.
That's right, okay. And you said we had no choice but to maneuver our way back in flip-flops, no less. Now, you included those two special words, no less, and let's talk about those words. Now, this just means, or is used to show the importance of someone or something. So I think you were trying to emphasize that you were wearing flip-flops. Is that correct?
Well, it's just kind of a surprising fact. Maybe you used the phrase no less to kind of sound impressive, right? So we're not going across in shoes. That might be easier than doing it in flip-flops. And there were certainly times where my flip-flops almost were swept away with the water. But you see, I have both of my flip-flops here still intact. Well, there are many ways you could use that phrase. It's a very useful phrase. I didn't know Steve could cook, but he cooked at dinner a fancy steak, no less. He didn't just cook pao mian. He cooked a fancy steak, no less.
Ooh, I would love to have some of that fancy steak that Steve cooked. Well, and of course, you guys were wearing flip-flops, and you were trying to maneuver your way back in flip-flops, no less. And as you said, each step had to be taken carefully in the swift current. Now, there's something else that I think is so interesting, Gabe, is that you said that you crossed that river not once, not twice, but 6 times.
Yes.
6 times.
Well, exactly. This is because, as I mentioned yesterday, there were those red arrows, those markers, right, telling us where to go. We didn't know that the markers were going to take us across the same stream 6 times. All right, we thought maybe once or twice, and then we'd reach the waterfall. Now, we had to go across 6 times, so it was really difficult maneuvering our way back across the stream 6 times.
Now, the lesson says that you crossed 6 times in search of a waterfall that you never reached. Okay, before we talk about that, let's talk about this phrase, in search of. That just means that you were trying to find something.
Right. Now, we did teach this phrase several months ago when I mentioned that I'm always in search of a new teppanyaki, 铁板烧. I love 铁板烧. And I got to say, Rebecca, our studio classroom fan wrote in suggesting a teppanyaki for me.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's called 夏目宁铁板烧. And it really is delicious. And I tried that 冰心蓉酱. So it's very delicious. I just wanted to say thank you so much for suggesting that. As you knew, I was in search of another teppanyaki.
And here's another way that you can use it. Frank and Philip set out in search of a treasure that they read about in a book. But I think it's more interesting that you crossed that river 6 times in search of a waterfall that you never found.
Well, Rebecca, we didn't find it that day, but I got to tell you, I want to go back. I do want to go back and try to find the base of that waterfall when it's a clear day. Friends, we do have more to learn about this lesson, so stay
But let's sing.
it
Out.
out. Sing it out.
We were running through the forest and what did we hear? Drizzling, drizzling. We were running through the forest and what did we hear? Raining, oh rain. We were running through the forest and what did we hear? Pouring, oh pouring, yeah. We were running through the forest and what did we hear? Flash flood, oh yeah, oh flash flood. Break it down now. One more time now. We're running through the forest and what do we see? Stream. Just a stream. Just a little stream. We were running through the forest and what did we see? Swift current. Swift current.